Thank you, and good morning, Your Honor. Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you for being here. I'm sure everybody's relieved you're not going to have to be here at 8 o'clock every morning. Let me first introduce myself. I remember most of you from jury selection. I wasn't there every day, but my name is Mattei, and I represent the families that have brought this case. I'd like to introduce you to the folks who are going to be here throughout the trial. Here at the table with me is my law partner, Alan Sterling, my law partner, Josh Koskoff. Behind Attorney Koskoff is Matthew Blumenthal, who's going to be here most days. And probably the most important person on our team, we also remember from jury selection, is my colleague, Pratika Seshadri. And she'll be displaying all of the exhibits for us throughout the trial, making sure we're well organized. Judge Bellis also mentioned the names of the families that have brought this case. They're here in the courtroom today. I'm not going to introduce them all by name, but I would ask that if you are part of the family that has brought this case against Alex Jones, I'd ask you to please stand during the seat. Thank you. Thank you. So when we met in jury selection, I said to most of you that it was kind of an unusual way for us to meet, with the microphone and the judge and the huge courtroom, and we're trying to get to know you. And you probably walked into this courtroom today and feeling nervous and a little bit bewildered by even more of the formality. A bigger courtroom, screens all over the place, we got people, we got cameras. And what I want to say to you is that when you put all of that aside, put all of it aside, all we're here to do, all you're here to do, is to use your common sense and your life experience to come together as a community, which is what you are, representatives of the community, to hold Alex Jones accountable for what he did in the minutes, the hours, the days, the months, and the years after the worst thing that ever happened to this community. And when you speak at the end of this case with your verdict, you'll be speaking on behalf of the community. And you may not know this now, but you have everything you need to decide this case. Your life's experiences, the hardships you've been through, the tragedies you've been through, knowing what it is to live as a human being in the world, what your parents taught you, what your grandparents taught you, to know the difference between right and wrong, to know the difference between the truth and a horrible lie, to know the importance of standing up to bullies when they prey on people who are helpless and profit from them, and to know that unless you stop a bully will never stop himself. And when it comes to stopping Alex Jones, that will be the most important work that you do here. And we're all here because of him, one man, Alex Jones. I'm going to be displaying some slides here throughout the presentation. This is Alex Jones, and this is his company, InfoWars. We'll be referring to it as InfoWars throughout the case, but it's Free Speech Systems. They're the same thing. And over the past 20 years, Alex Jones has built a media and business empire from his studio in Austin, Texas. Didn't always look like this. And InfoWars revolves around Alex Jones, his personality, and this simple idea that he's been pushing for 20 years, which is designed to elicit fear and anxiety and paranoia and anger in his audience. And that simple message is this: that there is a global plot of financial and media and political elites, including in our own government, who are plotting to establish a one-world tyrannical government to enslave and kill people. That's the message. And he's been pushing it for 20 years. Now, to you and me, that may sound a little bit out there, but to his audience, an audience that he has spent years amassing, it is very real and very scary. The centerpiece of the InfoWars programming is a website and a radio show, Infowars.com, and his radio show. Now, when Alex Jones first started, The Alex Jones Show was a radio show that was on 5 days a week, live, 4 hours a day. Started in Austin, Texas, got picked up and syndicated nationally to over 200 radio stations. And you realized very early on the power of the internet. The power of the internet to spread the types of outrage and anger that he was spreading. That's why he started his website. And he realized that if you filmed the radio show, if you filmed it, you could post the video of it. And people could see Alex Jones' antics and just how angry he was and just how fearful his audience should be. And so he started live streaming to the internet at Infowars.com. He started a news site, okay? It wasn't a news site. In fact, you're going to hear Alex Jones himself and his corporate representative tell you that they're not journalists. And everybody knows they're not journalists, except guess who? Their audience, who they tell repeatedly that they are journalists. And so they start this website, and they put up all the different ways that the audience should be afraid of what's happening. Because on his show, what he does is he latches onto events in the world, and uses them as examples for why the audience should believe him, that there is a plot unfolding to enslave and to kill them. He started growing. Infowars.com doubled to become PrisonPlanet.com. He added another website, Prison Planet TV. That's where you could watch all his videos if you wanted. And right before the social media revolution happened, what you have to understand is that Alex Jones was perfectly positioned to take advantage of exponential growth that social media would allow. Because he had a ready-made audience that was buying into his stuff. He had the type of medium that was most easily spread and engaged with online, videos. He had learned that if he could clip his show into little segments, little digestible videos that would take off online. And so when Facebook came around, he went all in on social media. You just look at how many social media accounts he had on Facebook, on Twitter, on YouTube. YouTube, the perfect medium for Alex Jones to just put up little videos, and he encouraged his audience to share them. He started live streaming his radio show, which he was filming, to YouTube, to Facebook, and to his own websites. And his audience was growing like crazy. Some of you in jury selection said you'd heard of Alex Jones. Others of you hadn't. But what you will learn in this case is just how influential he became. I want you to take a look at this slide here. This is from Infowars' own internal data. These are the numbers just for Infowars.com, his website in 2011. Okay? Not Facebook, not Twitter, not YouTube, just his one website. Nearly 250 million page views in that year alone. 32 million users, 85 million sessions. This is the audience that he had amassed that were tuning in every day. And what they were tuning into was Alex Jones telling them that, had you heard about that latest famine orchestrated by the global conspiracy that's coming after you? Had you heard about chemical pollutants in our water and our food? They're intentionally doing that to kill you off. Have you heard about the latest pandemic intentionally released upon you to depopulate you? Have you heard about falling fertility rates? The government trying to lower your sex drive so you have fewer children. Have you heard about mass shootings? Government operations as a pretext to take away your guns. Every day, something new to be afraid of. And you're going to hear about this business model. This business model, though, depends on one thing, and that is an endless thing for people to fear. And he grew his audience, for one reason. So that by the time they came to his website, he could send them to his store, where they could buy stuff. This is Timothy Fouget. He's a longtime business manager for Alex Jones. You're going to see his deposition played in this case. And I asked him, and in fact you know that during the years, let's just say from 2012 onward, Mr. Jones' social media audience expanded dramatically, year over year over year, correct? Yeah, that makes sense, yes. And as we've been talking about throughout this deposition, that expanded audience led to expanded revenue for free speech systems and Mr. Jones. That's correct. You can hear Mr. Jones's father, David Jones, testify about how they would connect what they were covering in the news to the products they were selling people. I've observed, for example, if people are being stressed out about the idea of there being very dangerous flu things out there and stuff, and we have found that there is a product that is licensed by the FDA, now, bear in mind, they don't carry FDA-licensed products, to be a good surface disinfectant, and actually you can make claims along those lines. If there is a headline that the Disease Control of Atlanta is saying that flu is up 5 times, and we say have something that we believe will support your immune system, and I personally use it as a hand sanitizer, you know, that kind of puffery sells very well. And Mr. Jones was reeling them in. InfoWarsStore.com. You can see advertised all over his website, all over his videos. This is the kind of stuff he was selling. You heard about when I told you that the government is lowering your sex drive so that you won't have any more children? I got something just for you. Super male and super female vitality. Just $52.45 on my website. You hear about those food shortages that the government has been inflicting upon you? Don't let them starve you out. I got storable food for you. And the chemicals and the pollutants that they're putting into your water. Get your state-of-the-art water filtration system on my website. Just $59.95. Radiation levels are going up. Another government operation. But don't you know what helps with that? Iodine. Iodine mined from 2,000 miles below the earth crystals. $40. And what about this? This one I brought up because it's going to show you the kind of profits Alex Jones was making off of his fear. This is a text message from Timothy Fruget, business manager, to Alex Jones. Timothy Fruget is going to tell you that Alex Jones wanted sales reports every day. Every day. You can see a text message from Alex Jones at 7 a.m. asking his sales manager, how are we doing so far? You look at the second sentence here. The retail for VasoBeet, beet juice, beet essence, will be $39.95 and sale for $19.95. Our cost is $4. That's 1,000% markup. Now I want you to ask yourself, who's going to pay $40 for an eyedropper bottle of beet juice? The evidence is going to show you that it's somebody who's been manipulated. Somebody who's been convinced that Alex Jones is the one telling them the truth about everything that they have to fear. And they dig deep for $40 to buy an eyedropper full of beet juice. And so this is what was happening at InfoWars. I want you to look at these numbers. I showed you 2011, but you know we're coming up to December 2012. In those nearly 2 years, this is the audience he was sitting on. Nearly 500 million page views on his website. Just Infowars.com. Remember, not Twitter, not Facebook. That's where all the action was. Nearly 500 million on his website. 76 million users, 193 million sessions. That's the audience that was ready to tune in for the next outrage on December 14th, 2012. We're going to talk to you a little bit about what happened that morning. All of you know. We're not doing it because we want any sympathy. That's not why we're here. But what you need to understand is the truth about what happened that day. Because the truth about what happened is what makes Jones' lies about it, in mere minutes after it happened, so beyond the pale. 9:30 in the morning, December 14th, 2012. Young trouble man comes up, shoots out the window beside the front door of Sandy Hook Elementary School. The principal, Don Hotsprum, and school psychologist Mary Sherlock confronted with a lot. They're killed. Erica Lafferty, Don Hotspur's daughter, is a plaintiff in this case. Bill Sherlock, Mary Sherlock's husband, is a plaintiff in this case. He turned left into a classroom full of 6-year-olds. Law enforcement raced to the school. Parents, family members raced to the area. Law enforcement from around the state converged upon tiny little Newtown. We all stopped, the whole state stopped. I'm sure all of you remember where you were. You're going to hear today from Bill Oldenburg. Bill Oldenburg is a 20-year veteran of the FBI. One of the most accomplished agents in the state of Connecticut, and he was part of the FBI SWAT team that responded to the school that day. Bill Oldenburg is a plaintiff in this case. But where was Alex Jones? Where was Alex Jones when our entire state, our entire country had been brought to its knees? Alex Jones was going on for his 11 a.m. start. 11 a.m. Central, noon time here. The school had been secured but an hour or two before. We're talking about within 3 hours. We're talking about when family members were gathering at the firehouse, not even knowing what had happened to their children inside that school, to their loved ones inside that school. And Alex Jones goes on his show. I want you to look at the date. 12/14/12. He's got all his websites up there. And you're going to see this video. Alex Jones already knew what he was going to say. He already knew. It's exactly what his audience had been conditioned to believe. It was staged. It's a government operation. He yells into his camera, "Why do government stage these things? To get our guns. Why can't people get that through their heads?" And they said this.
They have hit the ground running in a build-up, and I said, this is the attack. Look, people got to find the clips the last 2 months. I said, they are launching attacks. They're getting ready. I can see them warming up with Obama. They've got a bigger majority in the Congress now, in the Senate. They are going to come after our guns, look for mass shootings. And then magically it happens. They are coming. They are coming. They are coming.
They are coming. See the fear. The fear is striking this audience. That they would do this, that they would stage, the government would stage this. He had an audience of millions listening to this, trying to believe it. And they did believe it. And Alex Jones, in the days ahead, started settling on the lie. The government staged it. People knew about it in advance. The parents were suspect. They were reading from a script. And they were actors. Actors. Faking their grief. Faking that their children ever lived. All part of a plot, mind you, to strip his audience of their rights. All part of a plot to ban guns. And if there's one thing that scared his audience, maybe more than anything else, it was the idea of being disarmed by a tyrannical government that was coming to enslave them. And so he went all in on it. He called this video, "Connecticut School Massacre Looks Like False Flag, Witnesses Say." You're going to learn that Alex Jones personally titles all of his videos because he wants to design them to get clicks. And you'll see in this video, there's not a single witness who said that. A false flag, you'll see, is a term that means essentially that what they're telling you happened didn't happen. It's fake. It's made up. 3 days later, as the funerals were happening. Do you remember that? Funeral after funeral after funeral. So fast you couldn't even remember the stories of all the children and the educators. And what's Alex Jones doing? He posts a video saying creepy Illuminati message in Batman movie hints at Sandy Hook School. What he's telling his audience is, hey, drop the message. These globalists, they're that evil. They have to tell you what they're up to. And the fact that Sandy Hook appeared in a map, in a Batman movie, is evidence that you should believe means this thing was planned in advance. Now, that sounds ridiculous. And in fact, they're going to come up here and tell you, yeah, we never actually even confirmed if Sandy Hook was in the movie. But this thing spread. This thing gets attention. It's 3 days after the shooting. 3 days after the shooting, a video of Sandy Hook mass media psyops, outtakes, and bloopers. They pieced together footage. It made it seem like it was a blooper reel. It's all a blooper reel. Because it's scripted. It's like a movie. You have outtakes. December 19th. Now we're 5 days after the shooting, and this is where things really go bad. Because Alex Jones now is making it clear what he was suggesting before. The parents themselves are actors. Father of Sandy Hook asks, read the card. Seconds before tear-jerking press conference. He's talking about Robbie Parker. Robbie Parker lost his daughter, Emily. The night after the shooting, he came out of his church to give a statement to the press, to talk about his daughter. It was important to him that the world know what Emily was like. And Alex Jones called him an actor. He told his millions of people watching, Robbie Parker's an actor. Look at these numbers just for December. How many of these people came away thinking, this thing's fake, this thing's staged? Didn't stop. We go into January. Now it's clear. They're crisis actors. They're actors. It's all a hoax. January 10th, another one. January 10th, Sandy Hook AR-15 hoax. Still no school surveillance footage. And then on January 27th, we're about 6 weeks out from the shooting. Why people think Sandy Hook is a hoax, and he puts Robbie up there. He slows down the video, calls it method acting. And I want you to think about what it means to have millions and millions and millions of fear-stricken people who believe that you are part of a plot to take away their rights. What it means to have that many people thinking that about you. Because you're going to hear that they were outraged. Why wouldn't they be? These people must be the scum of the earth, pulling a fraud off on the American people to take our rights away, these actors. They need to be exposed. And that's what started happening. You're going to see, days after the shooting, Alex Jones's listeners latched onto this. The harassment started. Funerals needed to have security. And you're going to see that 2 days after he publishes this video, one of the parents who lost his son, Leonard Posner, sends an email to InfoWars. I'm very disappointed to see how many people are directing more anger at families that lost their children in Newtown, accusing us of being actors. Haven't we had our share of pain and suffering? All these accusations of government involvement, false flag terror, New World Order. I used to enjoy listening to your shows prior to 12/14/12. Now I feel that your type of show created these hateful people. And they need to be reeled in. Alex Jones never reeled in. You'll see that InfoWars top editor actually responded. They knew about the harassment that was happening. But the lie was too valuable to Alex Jones. Take a look at these numbers. From December to January, 38% increase in sessions, 36% increase in users, page views up 43%. It was working. And as you know, the reason this matters so much is because this audience meant dollar signs for Alex Jones. You'll see that over the years, Alex Jones had to keep the lie going. It's valuable to him. In 2014, this is 2014 now, a year and a half after, he started to enlist people to help him. This guy named Wolfgang Halbig on the show with Alex Jones. Wolfgang Halbig is a guy from Florida. Alex Jones had him on to say that Sandy Hook was a hoax, that it was an illusion pulled off by the Department of Homeland Security. You'll see Wolfgang Halbig coming repeatedly up to Connecticut. InfoWars would cover him. Alex Jones would send people to his website and ask them to support him financially. His website was full of all sorts of hateful stuff harassing the parents. That's the kind of guy that was useful to Alex Jones. Dan Bidandi, an InfoWars reporter, former professional wrestler, came up to Newtown with Halbig. They sent him up here with a camera crew. You'll see him harassing people on the street, harassing town officials, saying that Sandy Hook was an inside job and that they were covering it up. So this is 2014. Now I'm not going to show you all the videos.
Just one moment to turn that.
Yeah, sure.
You may continue.
Thank you, Your Honor. It's 2014. This is Alex Jones mocking the parents. He's pretending to cry, just like he said they did. You got all these parents, not just one, but a bunch of parents, coming up laughing and doing the fake crying. And he had Wolfgang Halbig on to say that the FBI, actually InfoWars said this, and they just wanted Halbig on to talk about it. FBI had said nobody was killed in Sandy Hook. It's a lie. You'll see it. It's a lie. They admit it. Went into 2015. Alex Jones calling it a total hoax. How do you even deal with a total hoax? A simulation with actors. That's 3 years out. 3 years that these families now, having lost their children, their wife, their sister, their mom, dealing with this. 2016, this one, he says, is his final statement on Sandy Hook. It's not. And I want to be real clear here. If Mr. Jones had just stopped in December, a lot of the damage would have been done. Because he was sitting on that audience, and once you send that lie into the world, you ever heard that expression? A lie will make itself halfway around the world before the truth can even get its pants on? But he kept going. In this video, he says, but my heart does go out to the people I see on the news who say they're parents. The problem is, I've seen soap operas before. And I know when I'm watching a movie, and I know when I'm watching something real. And then he looks into the camera and he goes, let's look into Sandy Hook. And you're going to hear evidence that that is a call to action. Let's investigate it. Let's look into these parents. Let's expose them for the frauds that they are. Keeps going. 2017, Sandy Hook vampires exposed. Now we're going to present you with dozens of exhibits, but the reality is, of videos and articles, nobody knows how many times they publish this stuff. Even free speech systems, InfoWars, they don't know. They didn't retain the videos. This is Alex Jones in 2021, saying maybe he was right all along. 2021. I want to take you through just one example. Just one example that you can see real clearly about how Alex Jones was cashing in on the misery that we suffered here. Remember the video I told you, the FBI says no one killed at Sandy Hook? All right, this is the article here. Now, most of the time, Alex Jones makes his money just by building audience over time. Sometimes something goes viral. Everybody knows what that means. This went viral. It was a lie. September 24th, 2014. You can see he's selling DNA for us right next to it if you want to get that for 33% off. Well, we have data from InfoWars for the period January 1st, 2012 through June 16th, 2019. All right, 6.5 years. All the articles they published on Infowars.com during that time. Thousands and thousands and thousands of articles. This article was the second most popular article landing page on the site during that entire time. What that means is people access the site directly to this article. Not the home page, not the videos page, directly to this article. 2.9 million people right on it. And what does that mean? Look at the spikes in traffic. You'll see, this is right over the weekend of September 24th. Bang! Unique visitors shoots up. Close to 2 million. Visits shoots up, over 2 million. Page views shoots up between 3.5 million and 4 million. What does that mean to the bottom line? September 24th is the day he published the article. Now, this is just one of his sales platforms. Okay, I told you he's got a bunch of stores. This is just one. On September 24th, the day he publishes it, he brings in $48,000 on that day. Look at the next day. $232,000 in a day, just on that one platform. Then it drops off a little the next day, on September 26th, $128,000. Then it drops off again. What you're seeing there is the relationship between the lie, the audience, and the money he's raking. Now, $230,000 a day sounds pretty good. Wait until you hear what he was making just recently. So where was all this coming from? He talks about the audience that was growing. In 2014, the year that article went viral, this was his social media audience. 2.2 billion impressions on social media. Billion. This is in 2015. 2.9 billion. Facebook alone in 2016, 4.1 billion. And look at what happens. You're going to see this text message. This is what I was telling you about. Jones wakes up just wondering how $ we are. We ended up about 810,000 yesterday. One day. Do the math. It's going to take me a bit to calculate what percentage of that was food, but it's looking like 650 to 700,000 in food sales. We were already over 100,000 today at 6:45 this morning. Crazy. Now you can probably remember what was happening in February 2020. Alex Jones and that fear was kicking in. But the audience that allowed him to deliver this kind of money into his pocket was built in the years before. The audience that he built during his Sandy Hook campaign was paying off. Emoji, emoji, emoji. In the years 2014 and 2016, 9.2 billion impressions on social media, 1.5 billion on YouTube, 2.95 billion on Infowars.com. He started adding stuff to his platform, his empire. He added more websites, band.video, all the little video segments you could ever want. News Wars set it up as another website like Infowars. Infowars Europe. Alex Jones went international. He still had the Alex Jones show, and he added another show, The War Room. And of course, his social media presence, which we talked about, exploded. Those are all the social media platforms he was on. And every single platform that he was on, driving this message, sending out the word that these folks were frauds and actors, send them to a store. Infowars store, InfoWarsLife.com. You can find his products on Amazon. You can find his products on eBay. So we know what it meant to Alex Jones. You're going to see hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars. But what did it mean to these families? They were defenseless. They woke up one day, they were just living their lives. Getting kids off to school, fixing lunches, going to work, coming home, letting the dog out, just like all of us. And it all stopped. It all stopped, and they were defenseless. They didn't have the platform that Alex Jones had. They didn't even know who Alex Jones was. But he knew who they were. His audience knew who they were. And ask yourselves what it means when you're lost in grief, trying to find your way through it, trying to take care of the kids that you have left, or the siblings you have left, knowing that there's a whole army set loose by Alex Jones to believe that you're frauds, that you're inaccurate, that the child you spent so much of your life raising never existed at all, that the grief that's consuming you is all an act. They didn't have enough time with their family members. Like, nobody does, but what they have were memories. And Alex Jones turned those memories into a battleground. So to be ripped apart, defended. And we're going to ask you to consider. I'm going to ask you to consider all that when you're thinking about the type of harm and damage that they suffered. But here's the reality. None of them wanted to bring this lawsuit. They don't want to be here. We trust you to decide what's appropriate here, what justice is here, because you've been through tragedies and hardships in your own life. You know what it means. And we hope that your verdict is resounding enough to send a message we've been taken in by Alex Jones that they've been lied to. But the reality is that we're never going to put this lie totally back to the bottle. We'll all be gone, and that lie will still be out there. But somewhere out there right now is another family getting their kids ready for school, fixing their lunches, going to work, thinking about their kid. And there's going to be a day when that child doesn't come home from school. And we know it, and it's sad, and that's reality. And the question is going to be, where is Alex Jones when that happens? Is he in the studio? Getting ready to pounce? Or will you stop him? That's going to be in your hands. And when we get all done with all the evidence, we're going to come back and we're going to ask this stuff. Because that's what justice is in this case. Thank you. Thank you, Your Honor.
Attorney Pattis?
Thank you, Judge.